I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is the core emotional wound. This is a very important psychological concept, so we're going to take a deeper dive today. But before we do, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It takes less than a second, costs you nothing, and it's how you can support me in my mission to deliver free, high-quality content to the world. Thanks for your help. So, what is the core emotional wound? This is something that is generally inflicted on folks in the context of their primary attachment relationships, which means that it generally occurs in the context of their relationships with their parents in childhood. And these attachment problems could have been caused by neglect, like the parent was withdrawn, emotionally unavailable, or absent, or by over-involvement, which means the parent was invasive, violating, and devouring. Paradoxically, these wounds can both create the tendency to replicate the wound through identification with the parent and create the tendency to avoid replicating the wound through counter-identification with the parent. These wounds distort the lens of subjectivity through which individuals perceive reality. This means that people who suffer from core emotional wounds will harbor ideas about themselves, other people, and the world that warp the direct experience of reality to a greater or lesser extent. The greater the wound, the greater the distortion. Now, every core emotional wound is fundamentally unique. However, there are two main wounds that people are subject to suffer from. They are, I'm not good enough, and I'm not lovable. Behind the scenes, there are some commonalities between these two core emotional wounds. Perhaps I'm a bad person is the fundamental wound behind them both, but I think they're distinct enough to, let's say, conceptually disambiguate them. In general, the wound, I'm not good enough, is created in attachment problems with the father, i.e. daddy issues, and in general, the wound, I'm not lovable, is created in attachment problems with the mother, i.e. mommy issues. And keep in mind that these are not mutually exclusive. Some lucky folks have both mommy and daddy issues. Now, what does this really have to do with anything? Well, people deal with their core emotional wounds through compensatory behaviors. For instance, a person who believes I'm not good enough will strive to be super competent, successful, and perfectionistic, because that's how a person essentially bargains with the world for the respect and validation they did not receive from the father in appropriate quantities. On the other hand, a person who believes I'm not lovable will strive to be charming, seductive, and people-pleasing, because that's how a person bargains with the world for the love and affection they did not receive from the mother in appropriate quantities. So these folks kind of believe that they have to trick people into liking them because they think they're not sufficiently lovable without manifesting these behaviors. Finally, when his or her compensatory behaviors are checked, threatened, or thwarted, the person suffering from that core emotional wound is thrown into a profound state of emotional dysregulation. Depending on the size and intensity of the wound, a person in such a situation could even be suicidal, because the failure of the compensatory behaviors now constitutes an existential threat to their very being. Serious stuff. Okay, there's definitely a lot more to say about core emotional wounds, but that's enough for a general overview. Keep in mind that healing these wounds is something that a good psychotherapist can help you with. So if you recognize yourself in this description, know that there is a way out. What do you think? Did you remember to like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm? And please see the About tab for more information on donations and consultations. Thanks for listening.